Hi everyone, so today we're gonna do some styling for our gaming website. So this is part C of the series. If you haven't watched the previous two videos, please watch them first. So today we gonna do some responsive design. So in previous video we fetch all the data and we have a placeholder for the card view and the list view of this home page. So today we're gonna make them pretty. So for mobile, we're gonna display one column, and as you scroll down, you see all the image are actually really responsive. If I make this smaller, you see the image actually shrink and still keep the aspect ratio. And if I go to tablet size, it's actually display two columns. And all these card views are aligned perfectly. And if you hover on the card, it's actually do a little bit of scaling up. So this just make the focus on the card view a lot better, so that the user can easily see that what item they actually hover on. And as you go to the desktop size, and it becomes 3 columns. So today we're gonna implement all of these. Okay, let's get back to the code. So first I'm gonna define some global styles for this project. So in style component we have something called theme provider, but I'm not gonna use all of those because I still don't get the role of theme provider. While you can define the global styles into variable, and I think using variable is a lot better than passing theme as a props to theme provider. And in style components we have to like derive from those theme props. I think that just makes things a little bit more complicated and the code is not as neat as it should be. That's why I'm going to define a global styles folder here, and I'm going to define the breakpoint first. And in this breakpoint folder, I'm going to define the size of the mobile and the desktop size. So for tablet, we're gonna go with 720 pixel, and for desktop, we're gonna go with 1024 pixel. I just come up with this number. I'm not a designer, so. And in this styles folder, we're gonna define the font that we're gonna use. And in the font, we're gonna define index files. And the font I'm gonna use is just the default Arial. And if Arial is not available, we're gonna fall back to Vanada. Alright. And then in the same style folder, we're gonna define a theme folder. This is where all the colors and text color gonna be living. And basically I'm gonna copy and paste all the color that I define for my design. So I'm gonna copy and paste here. It basically just export cons. So I define a primary color and secondary color. All these hex color are picked by me, and all you have to do here is just remember these variables which you're gonna use throughout the project. So now we're done with all our styles defined, and we're gonna go into our component. I'm gonna styles. Actually, I need to make a global style. components. This is the way that for style component to inject the default global style before we actually style our React components. So for this, I'm gonna define a new component called global styles, and in this global styles, it basically just styles the HTML and body tag, because by default the HTML and the body tag got default margin and padding, and that's make a gap in the HTML look a little bit ugly. So basically I just zero those margin and padding. So create global style, and I'm gonna import this. Create global styles from style component. Yep. And in here I just style the HTML tag, because all these HTML and body tag are actually outside our all these React components here. That's why I need to create these new components just to inject those style into the body and HTML tag. So by default, the body doesn't take 100% height to the HTML tag. That's why I need to define height 100 here, and then I define the global fonts family that we define in our styles folder. And I'm gonna zero out the margin. By default, the body got some value isn't margined, which is not cool. That's why I just zero it out. And I'm gonna define the box sizings. So border box basically means that when you define the height and width of your box, like a div or something, all the padding gonna be included in the width and height. And the background color gonna be our primary color in that's as we define the theme. Then I just do export default global styles. So now we're done with these components. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go back into our app index, and we're gonna import this component. Right, so we import this component in, and we just gonna do a React fragment and put this component here, copy all this, move it up. That's pretty much it. Now if you go to the browser by running yarn-dev, right, so we're gonna do a localhost. Now we have the background color, and yeah, so if you hover on this body tag over here, there's no margin, and the height tag off to the full width as the HTML tag. Yeah, so now we have a basic setup of our global styles. Now just go in and style each our components. Okay, let's go into our game list component. I'm gonna create a new file called styles .tsx. Now I kind of like separate styles from React components just to make things a little bit easier to see. You can see a lot of project using style component, they actually define the styles inside a components file, but that's fine as well as long as you guys are consistent. However, I find things a little bit easier to read if I separate the styles from the component. So here I'm gonna change this to list. Do this, and then I'm gonna do import. Now in the styles, we're gonna import style from style components, and now I'm gonna do export cons. I think it's UL. Okay, so now we style our UL tag. So I'm gonna say it's gonna display block. So, and also I forgot to mention that you should be doing styling for mobile first, and after you finish mobile, you're gonna move to tablet and then to desktop. And if you follow mobile first approach, things get a little bit easier and you're gonna save a lot of time instead of going from desktop to mobile. And for our URL tag, I'm gonna define a max width of 542 pixel, and I'm gonna set the margin 0 auto. Margin 0 auto come with width and display block. It's gonna make our list view at the center of the page. You see that it's at the center of the page. And now we're going back here and we're gonna set the padding 16 pixel left and right, and 0 on top and bottom, because this is an order list. So I want to zero out the default list style type, otherwise it's gonna have the bullet points in front of our list item or in front of our card view. And now we can have a look at our UL tab. As we go here and I do inspect, when I do inspect I can see all this, right? As you can see, the padding is not part of the height and width. I can tell that because I am the one who set 542 pixel as the width here, but that doesn't include the padding. So that means this UL item box sizing is not border box. So basically it doesn't inherit from the body. So that's why we have to specify this in our UL tag styles. So now if I refresh, you see that 542 minus 16 give you 510 pixel. So now its box sizing is border box. And also one thing I need to do that I forgot is go back to our home component, and I'm gonna do a main tag over here. I do this basically, I just want to have a little bit more semantic HTML in my code. That's something you also need to do if you care a lot about SEO. Now just go back to this component styles, So that's basically it for our list. Now we're gonna style the list item, which is this one. I'm gonna rename this to list item, and I'm gonna put it over here and go back into the style. Now for this, I just want to do margin bottom of 24 pixel. This is because on our mobile we can display one column, and the margin for each column for each card item is going to be just 24. And if you go back to your browser and you go over here, and you can see the margin as an orange here. So that's a gap between each card view. Now we're gonna style the card view. I'm gonna close all of this, go back to the card, create a new file, do exactly the same imports. Okay. Now if you look at the card view render, I'm gonna style this link tag first. So we'll go back over here. Okay, we don't need this. We actually need this in here. So for our style link, we need to define it. Now, how are we going to style this link? So by default, a link is just an inline component. Basically, underneath is a tag, which is the anchor tag. So we're going to change the display of it by make it an inline block instead of inline, and I'm going to make the width stretch to 100%. So the width gonna be full the whole width of the list item, and all the list width that we defined earlier. And the background color is gonna be our secondary color what we define the theme. I'm gonna do a little bit border radius of 4 pixel, and because it's a tag, so there's gonna be a default text decoration. I'm gonna turn this off for now. And if you go back into your browser, do a refresh. Now we have this secondary color that highlights the card view, and you also see the border radius here as well. And that's I think pretty much for the styling. Now we're gonna go to style this image. Yep. Change the name and style image now. Right, for the image, I'm going to just say the width can be 100%, and I'm gonna let the height of this image gonna be auto. So if you want to do responsive image, you need to put the height is auto, otherwise it won't remain the aspect ratio when you minimize the browser. There's some error. Okay. Okay, now if you minimize it, you can see the image try to keep the aspect ratio as you minimize the browser. So that's great. So now we're done with the image. We're gonna come to this title. Do expose con. Okay, now for this title, we gonna zero out the default margin. So if you do inspect on this title, you come down here, there's a default margin. So I want to zero that out first. And I'm gonna define a font size of 24 pixel, and the font weight gonna be 510, and the text color gonna be primary text color. Okay, so that's pretty much for that title. So as you can see, the title is great at the moment. Do a refresh. Yep, I think it's look pretty good. And also I forget to mention that we need to make a extra div here just to wrap all these content into one section and this to one section, so that we gonna style things a little bit easier. I'm gonna call this div is a detail tag, and I'm gonna move all of these in. So for this details tags, I would just wanna define the container padding. So this detail tag is gonna be basically a div with padding of 20 pixel. Do a refresh. You can see the padding here is 20 pixel. And now we're gonna style the description. So for a description, we do exactly the same thing. Okay, so for the description, we gonna define a font size which is a little bit smaller than the heading, which is now a 16 pixel, and the color is a secondary text color. Right, well, now we have all of this. Now we gonna need to make a genre. We need to style the genre. So basically, I'm gonna rename it to genre and go over here. Gonna define a padding for it. This is all the specs that I come up with. So if you guys have your own specs, that's fine as well. As long as you guys have a good design and consistent with all your style or grid size that you have in mind. And I'm gonna give it a font size of 12 pixels. Font weight bold. Color, and then the background color. Okay, so now I want to display this on the right, so I'm gonna do a float right. Yep, so now it's good. When you examine the response, if you look at the response somewhere here, so we want to display an icon to show that what platform this game is supported. So if it's a PC Windows, you're gonna display a Windows icon here. If it's a web browser, you're gonna display a web browser icon over here. So the icon's gonna be in SVG, and I already made this icon, which I'm gonna store it in this asset folder, and I'm gonna copy and paste the icon over here. Okay, so where's the icon? Okay, I've just found the icon. I'm gonna create a file name browser, and I'm gonna paste content of the SVG over here, and then I'll create a new file called Windows.svg. Now I'll copy the content of this SVG. Now that's all good, but we don't have a Webpack config to load all these SVG, so we're gonna fix our Webpack config first. So I'm gonna kill this, and I'm gonna go to our Webpack config. So in this Webpack config, we just need to add the rules for our SVG. So I'm gonna say test and look for SVG file, and we come down over here. We just use the asset resource. Okay, so this is a new feature in Webpack 5. If you use Webpack 4.3 before, you have to use the file loader or URL loader to actually load these static assets. But for Webpack 5, all of these are natively supported, which make things a little bit easier for us to config. And I have been using Webpack since version 2. The config for file loader and URL loader can be confusing at times, but now Webpack 5 make things a lot easier for you guys to use. And also we want to define a name for those assets. So we're going to go here, we're going to do the asset module file name, and in this I'm going to specify what folder these assets going to be put in after the Webpack loading it, after Webpack loaded it. So I'm gonna put in the assets folder with the name of the file, and I'm gonna put the hash as well, and the extension. So basically what it does is it's gonna put the static assets into this /assets folder with the name followed by the hash and the extension. So to demonstrate that, we have to actually import these into our file for Webpack to resolve a dependency first, and then I'm gonna run a Webpack build and you guys can see it. So now we're gonna import our icon. Copy this. Okay, so we import these, but however, it say there's no corresponding type for SVG. This is because we have no typings for SVG type just yet. So in order to solve that, we're gonna go here and create a global custom types for our SVGs. And for typing the declaration, we have to use a .d.ts. I'm gonna declare modules. Right, so I just declare typing for SVG file, and basically the type for the content when import SVG, I just put it as a string and then export that. And however, we still have this error because the TS config doesn't include this typing just yet. So I need to go into our TS config and I have to include that type declarations. And now it's gonna be gone. The type error is gone. Now it's just complaining these import is not used anywhere just yet. So now we're gonna have to add some of the logic to decide which icon to display depend on what platform response that we get. So I'm gonna do that now. So I'm going to declare an icon because sometimes a game can be supported both on browser and PC at the same time. So if this case happen, we're going to display two icons. And if you can see the response back here is support two platforms for this game, and these two platforms are separated by the comma. So I'm gonna do a split, and I'm gonna do a map. So now I'm gonna do a switch case. Trim basically just remove white space from the start and end of the string, and I'm gonna do in case of browser, and I haven't got this variable declare, so I'm gonna declare it now. Okay, I declare this variable, Close this and quick fix, do imports, and also gonna import the windows as well. So for case of browser, the icon gonna be the image with key equal. So right now I'm gonna make up the key as long as it's unique. I'm gonna take the game ID and I'm gonna say browser, and I declare the alt tag. This is just for accessibility, and the source equal browser icon. Right, this is pretty much. I'm gonna move it up here, and I'm gonna do a break. Do exactly the same thing for Windows. I'm gonna make this window icon Windows icon, and now we have that, and we just want to return this icon. Right, so that's pretty much simple. And how are we going to display this? I think we're going to display this after the genre. That is basically just a JSX syntax render. We're going to render this. And now we have things ready. We're going to go back into our browser. Wait for the Webpack build. Where's our browser? We have some errors. Now let's see why we have these errors. Oh, actually, we need to move it out of the component folder. Okay, we need to move this out. See, now we have the icons that we display, which is pretty cool, right? And one thing I want to show you is if you do a yarn build, so basically yarn build basically run webpack build, yarn dev basically run the webpack dev server. So now I do a yarn build, it's done. You can see here all of these are exported to our dist folder under asset directory. Pretty cool, right? This is exactly what we define this set module file names. So there's one thing that I want to show you guys is how style component actually loads CSS. So one way to see that is you go to head tag HTML, and this is all the styling that we have defined so far is attached to our head or HTML. And style components do that, I think, via React Helmet or anything similar. So because when you view the page source, this is a HTML that sends from Webpack. It's only attached to bundle JS, but there's no style tag, as you can see in this Chrome DevTools. This is because the HTML doesn't include the styles when it first sent to the client, but then when it reads this bundle.js, is read the code, and in the code there might be some like React helmets that automatically attach the style tags in our head, in the head of HTML, and these includes all the CSS properties defined by us. That's how style components inject styles in our HTML page. Now come back to our card view. Now we're gonna style the icon. Come back here. Go back to our styles. Now I'm gonna style the icon underneath. Width 20 pixel. I'm gonna define height and width. Our icon it's just 20 pixel. And the margin right gonna be 8 pixel. And this is all good. Okay, now we see our icons that's aligned perfectly with the genre. So now we're done with the whole mobile screen. You can actually see the screen size in Galaxy S3 and iPhone X. It looks pretty good to me. Now let's move on to our tablet. So for our tablet, we need to use mediaquery. So go back to the game list. So for tablet, I'm gonna have a different max width for the list view. And I'm gonna use the breakpoints that we defined earlier. And the max width here, I'm gonna just use the size of the tablet. Oh, actually we haven't do the hover effect. Actually, I'm gonna do a hover effect now using transition. So transition basically make the transform smoother with the timing function and the timing to actually finish the transform. So when on hover, we gonna transform the card view by scaling it up by 1.02. If you go back, you hover on it, you see the scaling effect here combined with the transition. This is take 0.2 seconds, as you can see. Now moving back to tablet size. So for tablet, we also a little bit of different style for our list view as well. We're gonna change this to display inline block, and I'm gonna define the max width of the card view to only 332 pixel because I want to fit 2 card views in one row. And margin right gonna be 24 pixel. So if you go back here, you see the margin of this list view 24 pixel in the orange in the boarding parts next to the card view, but I don't want to have matching on every second, because these need to move up here, and all of these card view on the right hand side here not gonna have any matching rights. So we're gonna do that by do a CSS selector on every second card. I'm gonna use even. I'm gonna zero out the matching rights that we define above. Hang on. Okay, I have a mistake. Now we actually align them. So this is mobile, this is tablet. Now we actually align them very well here, and this is exactly at the center of the page. This is list view. However, if you can see, there's a gap here. Oh, this gap, this is because sometimes a card view have longer description, sometimes it got a longer heading. That's why these two have a different height. So we don't want that. So one way of fix this is we can truncate the text, and because I just decided to truncate the text, I'm not sure how long this heading gonna be. Sometimes it's gonna be 10 lines, sometimes this description gonna be 20 lines, depends on the person who wrote the description. So that's something we can't control, and all of this data is not from us. So I think the best way is truncate the text, even though it's ruined the user experience a little bit. So in order to do the truncate text, we're gonna do the so in our details, we're gonna go, I'm gonna paste the breakpoints here, and I'm gonna make the white space no wrap, and I'm gonna import this. I'm gonna do the same thing for the title. However, you're gonna make the overflow hidden and text ellipses. So this is gonna make the text truncated in the heading and the description. As you can see, the heights are now aligned and the text is truncated with the text ellipses. However, this text ellipses only work on Chrome and Safari. On AI, it doesn't work. Just something that you guys should be aware of. Nothing too serious, but in this case, I only support Chrome. So my approach is still valid. Now we have this. Now we just need to work on the desktop size. So for the desktop size, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna define the now the breakpoint for our game list. Now I'm gonna copy this, change it to desktop as well, and for the list item, I'm gonna copy this as well and change the desktop, and I just readjust the max width to 312 pixel. And now every second card view needs to be reset back to 24 pixel as above here, because when you define new breakpoints, all of these styles from previous breakpoints still apply to the new screen size. So that's why I need to overwrite it, and I want this go back to 24 pixel as declared above. This is because we have a 3 columns display on desktop now, so every second card view is not a valid selection anymore. Instead, we're gonna use the Now instead we're gonna use the this formula in CSS. This is gonna pick every third card view, and when we say every third elements is gonna apply to these every third element in the rows. It's basically all of these. So now our website look pretty good. This is tablet, mobile, desktop. We hover on it, you can see the scaling. In the next video, we're gonna do a filtering this list of games. So the filter gonna be based on platform, genre, description, name. All those features gonna be in next video. And once again, if you like the video, please subscribe to my channel and give me a like on this video. Thank you so much, guys.